All right, guys. So our next main topic here today keeps us in the world of the DC universe, but as John was saying, the multiverse, if you will, if DC is going to be sticking with that, because we do know that what we don't know, like if they're going to be doing this multiverse thing with Superman at this point. We don't know if, oh my God, I was about to say Clark Kent was coming back, but we don't know if Henry Cavill is coming back as Clark Kent. I hope he does. He's my favorite Superman, but we don't know what's going on with the Superman franchise at this point in time. But we do know that we're going to have two different Batmen on screen. So we're going to have Robert Pattinson's Batman soon, and then Ben Affleck's Batman is indeed coming back for the Flash movie. We don't know how big or how small that role is going to be, and then we're actually going to have three Batman because I forgot about Michael Keaton's also coming back for that Flash movie. So that aside, we have a little teaser, kind of like it was almost like a featurette of sorts. Like I think this was like something that DC was probably going to be releasing with like Fandom. It'll probably be played at Fandom again, but probably like a little bit longer of a segment here. But they released something here for the Batman with Robert Pattinson in it, and it's just primarily like Zoe Kravitz and Matt Reeves just kind of talking throughout it like briefly. This is like a couple minutes of them having a discussion about like the Catwoman character, and Matt Reeves goes on to say that this isn't going to be a like Batman origin story, but it is like a Batman in his early days, so like a fresh Batman. So he hasn't been doing it for too long. He hasn't really said how long he's been doing it, but we're gonna get into the movie. He's gonna be an established Batman already in some right. But what he does go on to say is that all of the rogues, though, like Batman's rogues gallery, all his villains, it is kind of an origin for them. So he says like Catwoman is not really Catwoman at this point in time. I mean, it's just Selena Kyle, and she's like they almost made it sound like she's like a Robin Hood esque kind of character. And then like the same applied for like Riddler and then Penguin. Like they're not like they're fully established like Riddler character or the Penguin character. We're seeing them evolve like into those kind of true characters. It doesn't really say if it's gonna be like, oh, by the end of the film, someone's gonna call her Catwoman or anything like that. So we don't know. This could be something that kind of evolves over the next, you know, couple of movies, because Matt Reeves has said that like he has a trilogy planned. So this could be just an ongoing thing. They all could get their cool, fancy comic book names and costumes in this movie. We don't really know, but it is interesting to find that stuff out because it was kind of, I don't know. We didn't. It's just new information, really. So Rick, I know the Batman's been something that you've been pretty excited about seeing. So, what are your thoughts on this? This little like featurette coming out, and Matt Reeves saying that it's not an origin for Batman, but it's kind of an origin for the villains. Are you on board with that, or would you rather like see them just like, oh, that's the Riddler? Like, what do you think?
An interesting way to do it. I mean, I think it'll be kind of cool to like see them established as characters, like you were saying, and like in the early days of their careers as well. And I think it'd be interesting if like the entire movie nobody says the word Catwoman once, but you know who it is, you know who she's going to become, and same with like the Riddler and all that. Like I could totally see them saying like Paul Dano or whatever. He's not going to be like I'm the Riddler. So I think it's cool. It'll be neat to see Batman as a younger person and not like, a guy in his like 30s, 40s or whatever. It sounds like he's supposed to be like in his mid to early 20s. I don't know. Um, but I think it'll be cool. It'll be interesting to see like what they do with the trilogy and like if they have like a Joker down the road, all that sort of stuff. So
Right. It's almost kind of like, in a way, the Nolan approach,
yeah.
right? Because like Selena Kyle was in there, but she was never really called Catwoman.
No. She
You
looked
know?
like a cat with her little
Yeah,
like goggles. But
right. So she had that, and the same. This literally the same scenario with little scene we did see of Selena Kyle from the first preview back at Fandom, that first trailer when she's like dropping in and breaking in that bank vault or whatever it
mhm,
was. Her beanie that she had on,
has little like cat
yeah, they
ears.
just kind of like poked up on the ends there. So it's like it's very akin to that whole Nolan grounded realism thing. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they never get penned those names in the movie,
Yeah,
and if they
that wouldn't
do,
surprise me.
yeah, like maybe with like Paul Dano's Riddler character, he's leaving behind riddles and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if just like some beat cop
Just like
just
he's the
like,
Riddler.
yeah, says it offhand, like, what do you mean that Riddler guy
Code
at it
name
again or
Riddler.
whatever, and like that's what you get. He's like, so he's just like, which in all honesty, that's how like realistically, I would imagine all of these people get their names, other than like Batman, because Batman. Well, even so, Batman could have never once said that he is Batman, but like, look at him.
Yeah.
Like
Well, it could be like code
he's
names
a
that like the
guy in a bat
police
suit.
give to these people, just
Yeah,
like
right. Just like serial killers.
yeah, just like code name Zodiac or whatever, you
Exactly.
know.
Yeah, like writers normally like.
He does riddles, so let's call him the Riddler.
Yeah, exactly. That's normally how it happens with like serial killers and stuff. Like normally, it's not like the dude, like the Zodiac killer, even for instance. He didn't sign his letters like Zodiac Killer at the end of it. They just ended up calling him the Zodiac Killer, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he did sign it as Zodiac
Not in
Killer.
the first ones.
Not in.
I think later on, as he continued leaving
As he
them,
gained notoriety.
yeah, as because I think he was given the name
He's like, I
like
like that.
by
That's
the
got a
writers. So then he would leave that name so people knew who it like indeed was, and it wasn't like a copycat thing. Maybe
yeah.
I'm like I might be
That's got a
getting it
ring to it. I
confused,
gotta
but
keep that.
yeah. But I just like. Well, you don't get this in a comic book. Yeah, they're just gonna say, "I'm gonna call myself the Riddler," but in real life, it really would just be kind of like given to him, like you would think.
You would think.
Yeah, but John, yeah, you hear this stuff, or is this something that you're more on board with? Like I said, it's kind of the more Nolan kind of approach to thing. Like Bane was never really called Bane, and but we knew who he was and everything. So, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I, I think that Reeves has done something smart. I mean, I think has a good grasp on the fact that we're not that far removed from the Nolan verse. I mean, it's going to be 2012, 2022 when this movie, so we're going to be a decade away from Nolan. But the Christopher or Nolan Batman films are still near and dear to many comic book and just general audiences' hearts. So you have the Batman origin with Batman Begins. So I think it makes sense to not jump back into that, and to, if you're going to provide an origin story, go and do it with the villains. I think that's an interesting way to take it. Like, we got kind of origins for the villains in the Burton verse, in so much as Jack Napier turning into the Joker, and then Michelle Pfeiffer, Selena Kyle, and Danny DeVito's Cat or Penguin. But those were all very stylistic choices by Dan. What is it? It wasn't Danny Elfman did the music, by Tim Burton, and didn't really follow the traditional comic book route of those characters. So it'll be cool to see, hopefully, him stick to a more traditional comic book version of these characters, and kind of develop their origins that way. Interesting note, while Selena Kyle in the Nolan films was never called Catwoman, in one of the newspaper clippings when Bruce first meets her and is investigating her background, she is referred to in one of the articles as the Cat, which was actually what Catwoman's original name was in her first appearance back in the first issue of Batman way back in the 1940s. She was called the Cat when she first debuted. It wasn't until a little later on that they redubbed her as Catwoman. So anyway, that was just a cool little side note, but it'll be interesting, like you guys said, to see if like maybe she never calls herself Catwoman, but she kind of gets dubbed that by the media or whatever, and that's how her name develops in this universe. And I think it'll just be cool. My one concern with the Rogues Gallery, I love a good Batman Rogue story. Obviously he has one of, if not the, I think people would argue between him and Spider-Man for or the Flash, who has the best Rogues Gallery. In my opinion, it's always going to be Batman, but
For sure.
there is definitely a debate, I guess, to be had.
Those are the big
but
three, though.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like those three are like the big three.
Yeah,
I
so
would
I'm
throw
all
Superman in
for.
there too.
Yeah, Superman. Yeah, I think he still is just that one tier below those three, though.
Yeah,
But my biggest concern is, not I'm not concerned. Like, concern almost seems too much, but my biggest little nagging feeling is that it could turn into a Batman villains movie versus a Batman movie that focuses on Batman, and then the villains could basically overtake the story and become more important than the actual character of Batman. So there's always, you always run that risk. I mean, it's very, I think people that want to say that the Burton movies were all about the villains and very little to do with Batman. I understand that. I mean, for me, obviously Batman 89 is the catalyst for my fandom. So I have a hard time saying anything bad about it. But, obviously Jack Nicholson's Joker loomed large over that film. And then once you get to Batman Returns, it's all about DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer, and Batman is kind of a side character to them. So, but anyway, I'm looking forward to his movie. The Batman looks phenomenal. Everything that comes out from it, it's like this guy's doing something pretty special here, I think, and it can't come soon enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just hope it's good. Again, I just hope they tell a good story. Like, everyone at first was all concerned about Robert Pattinson because, oh, the Twilight boy and all this stuff, and like, they obviously have never watched any of his movies.
Right.
We've gone through how many Batman castings now, and we still run into the issue of, oh no, this casting's terrible. Like nobody knows.
He was in that one movie like 12 years ago. Like, that I didn't like.
Heath Ledger was in Brokeback Mountain. You're telling me he's going to be the Joker? No way. Blah blah blah. And then the most iconic performance. Yeah, the most iconic performance ever in my mind.
The best one. Yeah, like
Joker.
an Oscar-winning performance.
Oscar-winning. Yeah.
Just like that's two Jokers who've won Oscars. Like
he laid. Yeah, and he kind of. I don't think we ever get Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie if Heath Ledger doesn't change the public perception and give the public a completely different way of seeing. I mean, the Joker up until that point was, in the common person. Now comic book readers have had different iterations of the Joker. They've had the Dark Knight version. They've had the darker version that killed Robin over the years. But for the general public, I mean, you had Cesar Romero's cackling, joke prankster in the Batman 66, TV series and film.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had, Jack Nicholson's kind of scenery chewing, kind of over the top Joker in the Burton movie. You didn't have this kind of really dark, very very psychological take on the Joker until you got to Ledger, and he just changed the game for that.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Really, like I said it before, I think it was either on stream or I think it was on stream this past. It was the other day. But like Heath Ledger, pre-Joker, was always like one of my favorite actors because I loved A Knight's Tale. More than most people.
Such a good movie.
Yeah.
Such an underrated movie. I think people get lost in the uniqueness of it, but man, it's so good.
Dude, and like Paul Bettany's amazing in that movie.
Yes.
Alan Tudyk is in that movie with him. Like, it's
I always
so
forget
good.
that Paul Bettany was in that. Yeah,
they were amazing. And then I even loved 10 Things I Hate About You. Like, that was like I watched both of those movies, I think, more than anybody else. Like, and liked them more than anybody else. Because like Heath Ledger was like, that was pretty much the big two things he was in. And he was like one of my favorite actors, like pre-going to Joker. So when everyone else was freaking out about the Brokeback Mountain guy, it was like, but he's also in this other stuff and he's really good too. And he was really good in Brokeback Mountain, guys. Like, just watch the movie. It's a really good movie. Like, watch it. And like, he comes out and knocks out a park. Like, it's just like, I don't think anybody will ever say that wasn't the most memorable comic book performance, really. Like, in general, like, everyone still refers to Heath's Joker, like, to this day. When Leto got announced, well, is it going to be as good as, Heath, or it's not going to come close to what Heath did? And it's like, you remember back in 2007 when this was announced, before you all saw the movie in 2008, you were hating on this. Just like Batfleck. It's like, oh, Ben Affleck.
Just like Michael, like, people forget because the internet wasn't around. Like, people hated Michael Keaton. That was sacrilege that Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom.
Right.
For those that aren't old enough to remember, Michael Keaton had done his almost claim to fame at that point was this sitcom movie where he played a dad because Lord knows dads can't stay home and take care of the kids, but in the 1980s, that was the big, oh, what a crazy concept. He's going to be the dad that stays home and takes care of the kids. And this zany, wacky comedy called Mr. Mom. And he had come off of Beetlejuice too. He played the wacky, zany main character in Beetlejuice, and people hated Michael Keaton. Like, it was like people were calling for boycotts of the movie, writing it. This was back when people had to pull out a pen and paper and write their letters into WB and stuff, like before they could just hop online. Yeah, right. And people they hated it. But like, I've gotten this off track, but this all goes back to like, I can't believe people have gotten so wrapped up. I mean, like, have not learned the lessons of don't judge these actors and before we actually get to see them on screen.
I do feel like too, because I did bring this up about Pattinson, but ironically, I feel like there's been a lot less chatter about like Pattinson playing Batman as I
Yeah.
even expected. Because there was at first, like there was the Twilight boy things was totally there at first, but honestly, I think what made him shut up was that trailer.
Yeah, the trailer was great.
Good point.
I think that trailer came out just like, honestly, the same thing happened with The Dark Knight. Like, they released that first trailer with Heath's dialogue, he's, over the whole thing. He's the like monologuing the trailer. It was like, you've changed things thing. Like, and like
forever.
Everybody, like, you didn't hear one single person saying Brokeback Mountain Boy after that. Like, everyone was like, okay, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
But I think people are like, maybe they are starting to learn. Like, oh, maybe I'll wait till I see it, then give them shit. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see, though. But yeah, Robert Pattinson's fantastic, and that trailer, that was great. Like I've said before too. Before we move on, like they even came out and said, like at Fandom, when they released that trailer, they had only shot 25% of the movie, and they were able to cobble together that good of a trailer with 25% of their footage. Like you said, that makes me kind of feel like this is going to be like a special movie at that point. So I'm hoping. I mean, Batman's mine and many people's favorite character. So if it's not good, we're going to hear about it. So we're going to hear about it. So my question is, guys, what do you think about this kind of this information from Matt Reeves sitting here saying that it's this movie in some ways, and maybe the overarching trilogy, because he was kind of vague in it in that way, but it's more of an origin for the Rogues Gallery. Like none of the Rogues Gallery have fully developed into what their comic book iteration, final form is, if you know what I mean. So, but yeah, I think it's a good way to go, and it kind of makes sense in a more grounded, realistic way that like maybe the media or the police or somebody closely investigating these characters and the events they're doing, their little bad actions, maybe they just name them kind of off the cuff. So I think it's a good approach if they do it that route, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But whatever you think, let us know down in the comment section below.